Metacognition is usually defined as thinking about thinking. If you were to look it up in a dictionary, a standard definition might state that metacognition is the awareness of and understanding of one's own thought processes. We need to think about how the word metacognition has come to be used, or perhaps misused or used imprecisely. Metacognition is often used as a general byword for student reflection. It's often used to refer to self-regulated learning, which is that process of planning, monitoring, evaluating, and regulating the learning process. But I think a very useful way to understand and define metacognition is to think of it as the cognitive aspect of the self-regulated learning cycle. So, whereas with self-regulated learning, we're having students reflect on how they learn best, how they should be approaching learning, and how they can improve learning strategies. With metacognition, we're having students think about how they are thinking about a particular learning activity, how they might plan a thinking style or a thinking strategy. We're helping students to become aware of their thinking processes, and this is the monitoring aspect of the self-regulated learning cycle, and whether they can evaluate their thinking style and their thinking processes and improve them moving forward. So there's a subtle distinction between self-regulated learning, which is a much more general idea or a set of issues, and metacognition, which is specifically the cognitive aspect of self-regulated learning. Let's have a look at a number of ways that different experts in the field of pedagogy have defined metacognition, and hopefully that will help us to get a deeper and broader and more useful understanding of what metacognition really means. Firstly, we have this definition from UNESCO Learning Without Frontiers, which states that metacognition is thinking about one's thinking processes, and it states that metacognition has to do with the active monitoring and regulation of cognitive processes. Brown, 96, states that metacognition is knowledge about executive control systems and the evaluation of cognitive states, such as self-appraisal and self-management. Mayer says simply that metacognition is knowledge and awareness of one's cognitive processes, so he perhaps doesn't emphasize the need to evaluate and regulate those cognitive processes quite so much as some others. Whereas the ERIC descriptors state that metacognition is knowledge or beliefs about factors affecting one's own cognitive activities, also reflecting on and monitoring of one's own cognitive processes, such as memory or comprehension. So this definition points to perhaps broader factors that influence our thinking, and we see that the lines between metacognition and self-regulated learning become a little bit blurred at times. Blakey, 1990, states that metacognition is thinking about thinking, this familiar definition, but he focuses on this idea of knowing what we know and knowing what we don't know. Perhaps you've heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people who are not experts on a particular topic believe that they are experts and lack awareness of what they don't know. And in this sense, metacognition is an incredibly useful response to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Just as an executive's job is management of an organization, a thinker's job is management of thinking, according to Blakey. And he states that the basic metacognitive strategies are connecting new information to former knowledge, selecting thinking strategies deliberately, and, crucially, the planning, monitoring, and evaluating of thinking processes. Metacognition is generally seen to have three main components. First of all, we have metacognitive awareness, then there's metacognitive knowledge, and finally, metacognitive regulation. Metacognitive awareness, I think, is particularly interesting. It implies being aware of one's thought processes, and so we have a bit of a crossover or a connection to ideas of mindfulness. being mindful of what one is actually doing with one's thinking skills, what one is actually thinking, how one is relating to thoughts. And it's for this reason that the Global Metacognition Institute created a set of resources that help students to cultivate mindfulness precisely to boost their metacognitive awareness. The second component is metacognitive knowledge, and this refers to three specific things in itself, really. Knowledge of one's self as a learner, so knowledge about one's strengths and weaknesses as a learner and how one might build on those and help use those strengths and weaknesses in order to improve the learning process. Secondly, knowledge about thinking strategies and metacognitive strategies and when to apply those different strategies. And thirdly, knowledge or metacognitive knowledge about different task variables. So when specific learning tasks or problem-solving tasks in lessons and in the learning processes call on different strategies of thinking and how we connect those up. And finally, of course, metacognitive regulation, this capacity to change and improve one's thinking processes so as to make oneself a more effective learner and a more effective problem solver. If you want to develop this aspect of your teaching practice so that you can better nurture metacognitive thinking and self-regulated learning behaviours, make sure you visit globalmetacognition.com right now. In the free downloads section, you'll find a range of resources you can download absolutely free, no sign-up required whatsoever. Click the download all icon and you'll get the whole lot at once. You can also sign up for the mailing list, and if you do, you'll be sent instantly a free growth mindset toolkit. We've made a range of over 40 teaching resources that are focused on metacognition and self-regulated learning. And if you wanted to download any of them, you can use the promotional code YouTube123 to save 50% on your order. The best value way to get hold of all of the resources is through a membership plan. And as you can see, there are membership plans for individual teachers, department heads, which allow all of the members of your department to use the resources you download, and whole school plans, which are best suited for educational leaders, headmasters, school principals, and the like, who want to provide metacognition and self-regulated learning teaching resources to all of their staff. And note, if you sign up for a whole school plan, it grants free access to our online CPD course for all of the teaching staff in your school. So it's a fantastic value solution for improving metacognition and self-regulated learning in your school. Thank you so much for listening, and check out some of our other videos.